How's it going? It's been a little while. I haven't uploaded because I've been taking care of my body recently. I've been eating healthier, I got a gym membership, I have a skincare routine, and I've been taking extra care of my teeth and gums. I even bought this game called Mouthwashing. I heard it's meant to be a great dentistry simulator. Sony is still doing practically nothing on the PS5, so I'm back on my PC looking at popular indie games. Mouthwashing is a game I've had my eye on for a while, and I finally sat down and played it. In just 2 hours, I played a game that took me days to process what I had just witnessed. Anyways, how would I put it? It's a psychological horror about a crew left stranded in space after the captain crashed the ship. The story jumps around different time periods, but in a comprehensive manner where you can piece the information together without feeling thrown off. Alright, that's my spoiler-free review. If you want to play this game blind, and you should, it takes 2 hours to beat, don't be lazy, then click off this video now. Anyways, I first thought this was like a Telltale game where you can make different decisions, so I felt like an asshole crashing the ship. But it only has one storyline, so I guess I really had to do a space Paul Walker. We jump to our crew after the crash, we control the character Jimmy, and the others we see are Anya, Daisuke, Wilfred Boney's team, and Curly, the captain. Everyone's still intact after the crash, except for Curly, who got a little boo-boo on his finger. As supplies run out on the ship, the crew turns to surviving on mouthwash. Only God knows how they lived for so long. Their organs must be made of fucking steel. We also get flashbacks before the crash where we follow the perspective of Curly and gain more insight into the crew. I think the team did an amazing job managing to flesh out each character in such a short time span. Daisuke being the young and potentially retarded intern, Swansea being your average 50-year-old co-worker, Anya being the kind and innocent nurse, Curly being the ambitious captain who's disillusioned with his future, and Jimmy being... Jimmy. Their personalities and conversations are so realistic. So many games miss the mark on dialogue, and in this one it flows so effortlessly. Every time you interact with a character, you learn something new from them and you keep wanting to learn more about them. Now the story, this is a good story. As I said, it's told in a non-linear narrative, jumping around different periods of time before and after the crash. I was worried it would get a bit messy and I'd have to watch a bunch of videos to explain the story, but every chapter makes complete sense. Curly breaking the news of Pony Express shutting down in a flashback was when I really locked into the story. I feel like every event before and after the crash gives you a better understanding of each character and a reason why the captain crashed the ship. And that feeling of realizing why characters act the way they do, like Anya crying or Swansea crashing out, you have no idea what's happening, but once you connect everything together, it's like,
holy fucking shit.
Daisuke is just a victim of naivety. He says he was never good at anything, but you could see he always tried his best to help out, even if it annoyed Swansea. He definitely cares about his crew and trusts every single one without any doubt. Seeing him bleed to death in the end is the first real depressing moment of the game. Swansea having to put him out of his misery with the axe. Fuck. Swansea's an extremely well-written character as well. Like I said earlier, he's the old grumpy worker that hates working with younger people. He ends his sobriety knowing the crew's impeccable doom and generally acts like an ass to everyone. But in the end, you see how he really cared about Daisuke, how upset he was with Jimmy making him crawl through the vent that caused him to bleed out. He had been pretending the utility room was completely sealed just so he could put Daisuke in the cryopod. Swansea is a flawed character and he acknowledges that at the end of the game, even going on about how sobriety didn't give him as much joy as when he was drinking every day. That's a real thought recovering addicts have, which causes them to relapse. Amazing character writing there. Like Daisuke, Anya is a victim, but in a much worse way. She constantly failed medical school before being allowed to be a nurse on the cargo ship. Throughout the game, we see glimpses of her being anxious or upset, not really knowing what's up with her. She's worried about having no savings, she was crying when talking to Swansea, she asks Curly why the bedrooms don't have a lock. I wonder why she asked that. Oh, Jesus, I feel awful for her. Especially once you find out she was assaulted, all of those past cutscenes hit extra hard. As for the perpetrator, Jimmy might be one of the most irredeemable characters I've ever seen in a video game. Now in the beginning, he seems like the everyman. He takes the role of captain after the crash, he helps out wherever possible, he seems like the most average person on the ship. The further the story progresses though, the more you see Jimmy's completely fucked up state of mind. He's envious of Curly's ability to take responsibility and leadership quality. He feels like he has nothing other than his role on the cargo ship. It's not said but implied he's sexually frustrated, which leads to... well, when he finally takes control as captain, he starts getting upset with being responsible for everything, whether that be helping Daisuke out of the foam, or giving Curly his painkillers. His leadership skills are evidently poor. He physically assaults Curly and he causes the deaths of everyone on his crew. And through all of this, he never takes responsibility for his actions, which leads to the reveal that it was Jimmy that crashed the ship and not Curly, just so he wouldn't have to deal with any of these problems anymore. His mental state is so far gone that he celebrates his birthday with everyone's corpses and eats a piece of Curly's leg, who is the only other person alive. I'm just reading that off the scripts now, and if you've never played this game, I can't explain that. In the end, after a few more schizophrenic sequences, he apologizes to Curly, puts him in the cryopod before shooting himself. In a few ways, Jimmy reminds me of James Sunderland, who similarly can't take responsibility for his actions. But it's the fact that Jimmy does worse things and leaves his captain alive, completely injured and traumatized, that makes him much worse in my opinion. Him getting away with everything by committing suicide makes the ending very depressing and frustrating at the same time. Despite that, this story is amazing. Playing it from the perspective of the monster in a horror game makes it such a compelling journey. It keeps you guessing at what you will learn next with each event, peeling back another layer of this twisted narrative. Every minute that passes makes you question what's truly driving Jimmy's actions. That's definitely the main focus of the game though. If you play horror games for gameplay, this has basically nothing to offer. You do a couple of tasks like typing in codes or fetching an item, but it's not the focal point of Mouthwashing. The closest bit of action is when Jimmy imagines himself in a graveyard being hunted by Swansea. That was an intense moment, but you don't really do much other than that. But I treat this more like a Telltale game. I'm not too fussed about the lack of gameplay here, but I am fussed that you're not subscribed to this channel. Do it. Right now, take responsibility into your own hands. I think the game does an unreal job at scaring you in an unconventional way. It doesn't rely on standard tropes, but rather weaponizes uncertainty. Obviously, you're not really in control of this game, so Jimmy's mental state is unnerving, especially in moments where he imagines killing Curly or being hunted by a beast in the labyrinth. The ship is murky and claustrophobic, and any sound will have you on edge. Even when it's just a character's footsteps as they follow you, it's almost like you're being chased down. But I feel like the horror comes from the story itself. Everything you learn fills you with dread and makes you nervous of what you will learn next. You know that the crew is not going to survive, but you wonder how and when it will all fall apart. As I was saying about Jimmy, you become more and more unsettled by his character when you learn more about him. His psychological guilt trips are disconcerting, with the beast in the cargo room, his fight with Swansea in the graveyard, this caterpillar thing in a maze of vents, and feeding Curly his own leg. Every weird and messed up moment sticks with you. They represent the themes of guilt, consequence, and responsibility. It's definitely not shit your pants scary, but enough to leave you disturbed. I love the style of the game here as well. It goes for a low poly PS1 graphical style that amplifies the horror. The distorted, unnatural look makes models like Curly a lot more chilling. The simplistic textures give the ship and dreamlike sequences that uncanny feeling. Like Crow Country, it's not just there for show, it adds to the unsettling nature of the game. Overall, lad, why have I been sleeping on indie horror games? Mouthwashing is a creative masterpiece in storytelling. It builds dread through its narrative, layered characters, and suffocating atmosphere. It's not the horror that sticks with you, but the story as well. Piecing together the tragic fate of the crew and watching Jimmy's descent into madness creates a sense of unease that's hard to shake off. It's not a game that you play for action or mechanical depth, but it's definitely a horror experience that gets under your skin and will have you up all night thinking long after the credits roll. I literally typed this script out at 5 in the morning because I couldn't stop thinking about the game. I give Mouthwashing a 9. Not a 10 because I still need help with dentistry.